Welcome everyone to another episode of the Strive for Good Life podcast. My name is Nino Pinguera, and I'm here with Jacquie Cassella, who is a serial entrepreneur who specializes in real estate and insurance. Welcome to the show, Jacquie. I'm super excited to have you.
Thank you so much, Nino. I'm super excited as well.
Yeah, so lots of fun things to talk about. Your story, though I don't know all of it, the pieces you've told me are really fascinating. So let's just start at the beginning. What kind of got you interested in business, kind of where it all began. So if you just want to take it from there, let's jump into it.
Well, sure, let's go. I've been a serial entrepreneur since the age of 12, and how that sort of came to be was, I guess, sort of by accident or just like opportunity. It's really actually by opportunity, I would have to say. I grew up in a rock and roll household, and my dad was always like he was an aspiring musician for his young part of his life. So I grew up, singing before I can talk and writing songs. And we had a music room. We always had a music room. And I remember that this morning, which then turned into a studio. So we actually had a recording studio in my house. Like it kind of morphed over the years because, when you have, we didn't grow up we didn't have much money. So my dad would like figure out ways to make a recording studio, like just getting small pieces one at a time and, things like that. And so we wind up having like an 8-track analog reel to reel. So that's how we started. And then by the time I was 16, we actually had a 16-track digital. So in like a full recording studio. So as you can tell, it like took probably like, I would say probably 10 years of my life, I guess. So then I actually started studying music myself when I was 8 at piano, and then 12 to train as a formal opera singer. So around the same time, my dad had already started giving guitar lessons out of our house, like in our basement. So he kind of created that to be like the music room / really like record. It was a recording studio, really, with a full recording studio. And the town found out, and they're like, "Oh no, you can't do this. You need that. This is not permitted for business." And he's like, "I only have like a handful of students, and I'm like not even selling anything but books and strings, like for their lessons. Like it was like nothing. You know what I mean? It was like nothing." So because of that, that happened. I don't even know how they found out. So we had to find a location. So my dad, obviously my mom and my dad, they scoured the town, to find this location that was affordable. So this is probably like in 1990, I don't know, 91, 92, 93. So we found this like little corner. Well, it was actually a triangle location. So it was on a corner, but the corner was triangle. So the store was triangle and it was really small. And we were able to kind of renovate it to make 2 small music like studio rooms, for the lessons. And then the front part was the actual retail store. So it was like probably like $300 a month at the time, maybe less. It could have been 200. I don't even remember. So, but that's how I got into business. I learned business alongside of my father at age 12. So I have 30 years experience in business, learning from nothing. Like that, we learned as we went along. And by the time I was 16, I started my own contracting business, giving piano and voice lessons to beginners. And then by the time I was 18, I actually co-managed the store with my dad. And I did that through high school and college. So I was probably the highest paid teenager, at the time. So I think I was done with college. I was making $40 an hour, just, giving lessons. And I never got paid for being a business manager of the store or even any hours I ever did. I would work after school, starting when I was 12, right? And we'd have like a calculator, like no cash register, or everything had to be done by in your head, like mental math to like run up the receipts written by hand. And I would like work with him every day after school. And, that's kind of like I guess it was like a chore, but not really a chore, but I didn't get paid for it. So
Yeah.
I got probably like, Chinese food and, cool Christmas gifts and stuff like that.
Okay. So you got a ton of experience just working for your dad in the shop.
Yeah. Well, it's working with my dad because, like I said, he didn't know business at all. Like we basically just like went into it, just, you know, just jumped into it like go-getters.
Yeah. Okay. So you're just learning everything on the fly, all the business principles. So
Yeah.
everything from accounting to, I mean, I assume
Oh,
you had to
yeah.
learn marketing. I
Oh,
mean, what kind
yeah.
of things were you doing? Was it just running, the front desk or?
Well, yeah, so we had a little like, like a display, like where like a display case or something, right? And that's kind of like where we set the register, so to speak, or whatever, and like that's where the little items would be and stuff, and that's where my chair would be. And we had like a money lock box there and stuff. So I mean, it started out with me just doing that. So everything was super basic. Like this was before even like computers, you know what I mean? So we didn't even have like, like you're lucky you had a running calculator tape, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So, so everything was really done by hand, on paper, and on calculator, like really stuff like that. So that was the basics of just, math, accounting in general. By the time we wound up moving our location, shortly after I started teaching, I guess when I was 17 or 18, to a bigger location. And that was actually when QuickBooks came about. Like that's when like the computer age started to happen, and it was more like accessible to us, regular normal people, not rich people, right? I actually learned QuickBooks out the jump, like when it first was concepted, it came out, and then like TurboTax, like, yeah, that's just the financial and accounting side. But like, yeah, all the marketing, like I remembered my dad, and we would create art, advertisements in like the local newspaper. Like there was a local town newspaper. There was also one in the county. That was probably a big part of just our marketing in general locally. Because remember, there was no really phones then, like cell phones. There was no there's like everything was so basic, right? So I mean, the biggest investment that we had always when we started a business, and me personally, was business cards. Like my dad was basically, he started in the basement, right? So he started with nothing, like just nothing. He probably I'm pretty sure my dad just bought business cards. And that's how I learned business. Like just start a business and have business cards. That's all you need, that's it. And he actually also had, before that, he tried to, he had his own like construction, side business too. So he kind of was already a little familiar with business, but not really. Do you know what I mean? Like this was a full retail, store. Like, so, and along the way I learned retail, wholesale, accounts receivable, payable, marketing, advertising, like everything that you can think of. So I really talk about, well, for myself, I'm very versed in business development and management, and, starting from the ground up, like, and now all the rules have changed too with the government. So in the state, right? So what you have to do now, we didn't have to do 30 years ago, right? So, like registering or get it. Well, he did have to get an EIN, I'm sure, but I wasn't like aware of that right then. So I was too young. But I know that there wasn't much he had to do. He had to do something with the town, obviously, and he had to get a location. But it wasn't like, I don't think he had to do anything with the state at that time, like, all this, other stuff. So, business has really changed and morphed, and then of course the internet was huge, and, websites and all this other stuff. And, right. So, so I really learned business from the ground up, from nothing, you know what I mean? And my dad was influenced in business by my grandfather, who had a shoe repair store in Brooklyn, New York, like, like in the 1930s, I guess, or 40s, you know what I mean? Like, we had just got off the boat not too much longer after that. Like we came here in the early 1900s. So, we came here with nothing. So it was like, we were mostly construction workers, you know what I mean? So I think my grandfather was probably one of the only and first business owners in all of my family on both sides. So, so I think that's how my dad was exposed to, the concept of business and, wanting to be self-employed, or, living out his dreams and his goals, hence like being a musician. So that all rubbed off onto me, you know what I mean? So at a very young age, I was taught, like, you can do anything, don't let anyone stop you. Like, it doesn't matter your age, race, gender, nothing, it was very open. and very like a liberating, household. We're all girls too. So, we really, like learned that you can do whatever you want to do, like whatever you can think of, you can do it. So, and then later on, when we got married, I actually helped my ex-husband create his business. So that's kind of like how I actually then learned how to establish business, was because I helped him do it, right? So EINs, and then I knew QuickBooks at that point, and all kinds of stuff. So I was like, I did all the office and administration work for a graphic design business company, and then the crash kind of destroyed that a little bit. Like, it really got super slow in the 2008, so I had to go back into corporate America. And, when I did that, I really just found out I didn't fit in, because I was like too overqualified. Like, entry level wasn't going to work for me. Like, people, like, I became a target because of that. Like, people can see, even if I didn't say anything, that there was something wrong with me. Like, meaning like, I'm not normal, I'm not average, I'm not like them. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't just, this is not the only aspiration I have, is to have this job working at a casino, counting millions of dollars. Like, no, that's not like the goal. Like, I was trying to move up the corporate ladder there, and I was just getting blocked. So, a few years later, I had obviously had a lot, had a lot of life happen. And so, things, happened in my life that, kind of, sometimes interrupted like the flow of what I wanted to do, or whatever, or didn't know what I wanted to do because of the lack of direction. Right. But, so, a few years later, I actually, got a divorce, or I left my ex-husband. It wasn't a very good situation. It became toxic. And I had to exit, becoming now a domestic violence survivor. Right. So, which he was never, abusive, physically abusive, but he had a mental illness. So anyway, so I exited out of that situation. And, the next year I was offered an opportunity to have a second career, like ultimately like a second life. So I was like totally like, I'm the Phoenix over here. I got burned to ash. I had to rebuild my whole life from that whole event, and not just my face was all, like, and we're talking about my credit, my everything was messed up because of my ex-husband's, excuse me, mental illness, because we lost children. So, to handle that. And we lost 3 children 1 year. So he couldn't handle that at all. So regardless, so I was.
Yeah, do you want to pause there and like maybe get into that a little bit? Because you just said a lot that.
Yeah, I say a lot. And that's all. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, no. So, okay. So you said something profound that you lost 3 children, and then it sounds like you had medical injuries that you had to. So what happened? And,
Okay, so let's start then around when I was like 21, 22. So, because that's basically after college. Okay, I worked myself through college. I actually studied and trained in Italy, with a prima donna from La Scala, and I was asked to debut there. Okay, so that's now the end of college. All right.
Okay, so this is for opera singing, correct?
Yeah, right. So, right, I trained for 10 years as an opera singer, and I became semi-professional. And actually, me and my dad did quite some, a lot of things together. We used to do, weddings and funerals and like all kinds of, different gigs. But I also did, high volume, quality performances and competitions. And I would win. So, which was, awesome and amazing. So I did that while becoming an entrepreneur, learning business, creating my own business through high school and college. And then I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to study abroad, like I said, live in another country for a few months. And then I met this incredible lady who was a prima donna at La Scala, which is the #1 opera house in the world, by the way. And, basically almost at the end of my trip, so we're having these lessons, and she only knows Italian. So like I'm like doing half Italian English in our lessons, like, And I have recordings of our lessons on cassette tape. Like I could probably still listen to them and like understand what she's saying to me and feel the moment, right? So she was, just completely, she just wanted to, she loved me. She wanted to continue to work with me, and she wanted me to debut at La Scala with her, like as her protege. And at the time, I had to come back to the United States because I was a breadwinner, more or less. I was an additional breadwinner to my family. So I've been supporting them since I was 16, paying bills, groceries, like you name it, appliances, like credit, like using everything. And so that was one part that I came back for. But really, I was graduating college that next semester. So I was like, I have to go back and finish. Like, this is like one of the American dreams of our family, right? It's to get a degree. And I had a degree and my dad didn't. And he actually went back to school while I was in school, like halfway through, to complete his schooling, because he had to stop his schooling when I was born. And he actually wanted to become a music therapist, which at the time in the late 70s, early 80s was like so new. Like nobody knew what music therapy was. It was being developed like on the ground floor, like roots of this whole career, right? This whole idea of art therapy, right? That's kind of like was the birthing of it. So there wasn't a lot of information or even like courses on it. It was just kind of being developed. So he went back to school and he got his degree in music education. That was what he, decided to do. So, so then after I graduated, and I graduated early, from college, I was only in college for like 3 years. I actually, met someone. I actually met the first love of my life. And that's not my husband, my ex-husband, by the way. And by the way, I've been divorced for 10 years. So I keep, every once in a while I'll say husband, I mean to say ex-husband, but whatever. So anyway, so regardless, I met the first love of my life. He was an amazing person, an individual. He was very like high profile. He was actually from another country that came here as a like in half of his childhood, and for his mother wanted to give him a better opportunity, and he wound up going into the military and the CIA. So now this was back around 9/11. So can you imagine? I meet someone amazing. He was so influential in my life. He actually helped me to like think about and create like I need to take care of myself and self-care and like healthy habits and stuff like that. Like he was just very big on becoming a better version of yourself, which is like a big thing that I'm about, right? I talk about. So but anyway, so our relationship sort of fell apart, and because of 9/11, and he chose his career over our relationship, and we were going to actually proceed, like have a whole life together. I was going to relocate. I was going to go to Peabody Music Conservatory down in Baltimore, Maryland, like all this stuff, right? So it kind of really threw a big monkey wrench in the whole, thing. So I was heartbroken, and I literally, I rebounded, and that's how I got married. So I was young, I was naive, I wanted to be loved, and I rebounded off the first love of my life and just married the whole young person. And from the day I married him, which is why I kind of telling you some of this, the first day, the day we got married, I had a major car accident that changed the rest of my life. I have a tear in my knee. I have my whole neck and spine is damaged from this car accident, and somebody hitting me on my side. Like it really wouldn't look like you really wouldn't have thought it was a crazy accident, but I was severely injured. Like I was 22 years old and I had now a body of a 65-year-old. And as you know, as you get older, it gets worse. Right? You know what I mean? Like you feel it more. Like back then, I didn't feel it like I feel it now. So I was like, okay, whatever. I actually felt my knee injury, which is like a basketball injury from a car accident, more then than I do now, which is so weird. So anyway, so the day we got married, we had this major car accident. Then 2 months later, his only son, he had one child. He was 12 years old. He died in a freak accident. like freak accident. Okay. Like in a washing machine, freak accident. So, we were married at that point. I was, like I said, I was young. So I wanted to, you know, I just wanted to be I just wanted to support him, be supportive and love him and just, get through this point of our lives together and be a good wife, whatever. So we actually tried to have children in the same year. And I lost two babies that year. And my second child, I was actually like in my third trimester. So it was pretty detrimental. So in 12-month period, in less than 12 months period, we had lost three children. So that now shaped the whole like the future of our marriage, because he became mentally ill. He actually was diagnosed with bipolar that was dormant because he had a childhood history that apparently like made like he was bipolar but didn't know it because it was dormant, right? So, and that was from like epilepsy, like seizures or something. I don't know. That's what we were told. So he wound up, being eligible eventually, because what didn't really happen back then, but he was one of the first people awarded mental health like disability in our country because of the post-traumatic stress event that he endured, which was the loss of his child. So, because back then they weren't doing that. They weren't giving mental health illness like disability. If you had a mental illness, they weren't giving you that, to be on disability. Now it's different. And it's probably because he was one of the first people that, paved the way. You know what I mean? It was pretty wild. So I learned I learned a lot. I learned a lot about mental illness. I learned a lot about, uh, the system, Social Security, Section 8, like all kinds of stuff because of what we had to go through with him. And then I lived in 12 years of self-medicated addiction. So he, once we found out he had a diagnosis, right? He was going to the doctors and things like that. And, he felt the medications weren't working or whatever. But honestly, since that first year, like he would disappear and I wouldn't know where he'd go. You know what I mean? And I, like I was young, and come to find out he was going out and, getting street drugs to self-medicate his pain away. And I lived in that for 12 years. And I knew that, I woke up, after I grieved for my children, my babies, and you never get over that, you know what I mean? But like, it's a process, right? So the first year was the hardest, but as the years went by, I was like, this isn't healthy. This isn't normal. I shouldn't be all alone in my marriage, like 70-80% of the time, missing holidays and birthdays. And where is he at? He's on the street, stuff like that. And I guess in year 10, I was like, okay, I got to get out of here. So I more or less like try to plan my escape, so to speak, like my exit. So I was like, I really thought, okay, all I got to do is get a better job, right? All I got to do is get a job and, good job, right? And I was like, but at the time we were in business together, I mean, it was kind of slowly declined or whatever, but, and I guess it was I had just started working at the casino. So I had a job and I was trying to move up. And like I said, I was beyond entry level. Everybody knew it. So it was hard to move up. So I had a lot of like, blocking going on. So, but I was just like dead set. If I get a better job, I can leave. You know what I mean? Like I'll just leave, like just walk out, just not even like tell them I'm going. I'm just going. Right. And it didn't end that way. And that wasn't God's plan. You know what I mean? Like it just didn't, I thought I actually did get a better job, and then that didn't work out. And then I actually was at the time unemployed. So when this happened to me, I was unemployed. I had nothing. Absolutely. My credit was all screwed up. My insurance history was all screwed up because he did some really crazy stuff. So like, got into situations and incidents with the car and bartered the car for drugs, like so much tech stuff, whatever happened. So, just one day, I think I went to I went to a job interview that day, and I know I did. And I came home and I don't know what just like clicked or went off, and it was something that he said or did, or I don't know what happened, but I just said, I can't do this anymore and I'm leaving. And that was when he basically, like, we argued, of course, or whatever. I said, I can't do this anymore, whatever. And he just made it known to me that he wasn't going to allow me to leave without damaging my life or my future or in some way, shape, or form, whatever. And, literally, he said this to me, and I haven't actually shared this with this is like public, right? So, I mean, I share this intimately, but he literally said to me, I'm going to make sure no man ever wants you ever again. And then that's it. He beat my face over and over and over again. And I guess I was screaming. So the neighbors heard, and actually they called the police, and the police barged in and stopped him where he was. It was very quick. I was actually very quick. So I was surprised. Like looking back, it was like, thank God that they came in when they did, because that was probably one of the moments of my life that I could have died. Absolutely. Like I basically definitely have 3, near-death experiences. Like I could have died 3 times. Like I should be dead. And that could have been one of the times. I don't really count it, to be honest, but I could have died that day. So, anyway, so that's how I was burned to ash and became the phoenix that I didn't know then, and reborn. I was reborn, and I, rebirthed my life, and I had to learn everything. I had to learn, how to fix and repair my credit, negotiate. I had to write my own divorce. I had to be, become a lawyer, or a paralegal at least, and I had to wait like 2 years till I was even allowed to touch the paperwork because he wouldn't sign the documents. And, all kinds of stuff that besides learning a new career, like a new skill, and getting, I have all my licenses in all lines of insurance. So I have, property casualty, that's personal lines, and commercial. So that's auto, home, business, right? Then I also have health and accident. And then I also have life and fixed annuities, which is like retirement. So, that took me, that was a lot of money that all came out of my pocket. I don't even know how I even paid for it all, to be honest. But it wasn't crazy. It's honestly more crazy to, buy states, and you have all these states and stuff. But I was almost licensed in half the country at one point. That was in 2018, when I did an open enrollment period with a company, a nationwide company. So, I really am like the unicorn of insurance, because you don't normally meet someone in insurance who knows all lines. And then plus, and then I was licensed in half the country, which every state has their own situation, like laws that it's, you don't write the same in Florida that I did in Pennsylvania. It is a million times more complicated. I just wrote about that today or yesterday, that Florida is the worst state to write for, like even worse than New Jersey, and I think New York. So I'll just leave it at that. It's like so complicated because of what they make you have, and then like it's just ridiculous, to be honest. And then it's obviously the rates are absolutely inflated. So that's how I got into essentially my own business, my own career. And in about 2018, I was actually recruited so I had already started the journey of becoming an independent agent. So I had signed that spring with a health and accident broker. So, and that was just me as an agent, like, whatever. And because I wasn't using those lines, so I placed it somewhere, and I can, make some extra money on the side or whatever. And I had a pretty good job at that point. But, they made a whole bunch of promises, as people do in the business, like, 401ks and health insurance. And, like I made offices number 1 in their first 30 days. Like I have an over 30% closing ratio, and I can do $100 a day in less than 30 hours. I have an amazing track record, apparently, that I didn't even know that I had till, later, or like come to find out, like I made an office number 1 in the first month, and then I got other agents walking in my office, like wanting to shadow me to see what I'm doing. Like that was so crazy. I didn't even understand what was going on. Like now I can talk about it and understand, but then I was like a baby agent. I didn't know what the heck they were doing. Like I was like, what's going on? I was like, this is weird. Yeah, it was so weird. So Go ahead. Sorry.
Can I ask about how you were able to, get such a high close rate? Because I mean,
I just was good.
yeah, just great at talking to people, or I
I
mean,
think
what do you think set you apart?
Well, I'm actually working on perfect your sales pitch idea right now, like to offer for business consulting. But I think, for me, it's all okay. First of all, it's all about personality. Well, personality and being able to, express and give empathy, those things are really, really big. Besides knowledge, you need to be knowledgeable, right? You can't just sell something and not know what the heck you're doing, even if it's like, so I was with State Farm at the time. So I was born and bred in State Farm. Like I wanted to be with State Farm after I got licensed because I was like, they have the best training system, they have the best everything, you know what I mean? So I was just like, I need to learn from them, and I wanted to find a mentor, which didn't work out because, I'm going to just say it on your national podcast that agents are sneaky snakes. And, I was given a lot of promises at all kinds of offices and, they never delivered, and so I left. I had I kept going to different offices. I've been basically licensed, or I had my license with every major carrier in the country. So you're talking about State Farm, Nationwide, Allstate, everything. And then even more than that, MetLife, like I can't even, like I went through so many different offices / competitive carriers. Like it was ridiculous in my first 2 years. And that was just because I didn't have the guidance and I didn't have a mentor. And that's all I wanted. I wanted someone to guide me, my career, where I should go, what I should do, how I should be. And you know how I learned how to be an agent? From underwriters. That's how I learned the business, was from underwriters. So I would call them because the agent was never around. I'm walking in the office. I'm running the office. I'm opening the office, right? The main agent of his own office is never there. So I'm like trying to do my job, make calls, talk to people, try to get them quotes, whatever, see if I can save them money. And I learned the business of insurance through the underwriters. So then when you get to the whole sales process, right? I never had anyone teach me how to do sales except for learning with my dad, right? And, we always just focused on the customer. Like what do they need? What do they want? What are they looking for? How can we help them? So that was like, just the idea when we had the retail music store, right? So I guess it just brought that into insurance, and it's even more at a higher level of needing to care about people. Like you got to really care about someone, to be like, okay, listen, you're not properly protected. Like first of all, you got to gain their trust, learn about their life, and then and their finances or all kinds of kooky things, your budget, whatever, right? And that's just to do maybe like an auto home quote, because you're obviously they're searching for something that's more affordable, but a lot of times people just skim coverages to do that, and you can't do that. Your assets need to be properly maintained and protected. So, because your life, what if you're like a high profile doctor? Like you can't have crazy low coverages. You know what I mean? Somebody's going to come for your life and they're going to take everything, your house, your car, your kids. No, I'm kidding, not your kids. But you know what I mean? Like they're just going to take stuff, they're just, whatever. And they lose it all. But, that's why you got to really, give someone a thorough, insurance review, learn about their life and, gain their trust. And it doesn't always take one appointment. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 appointments. Right. And, for me, the art of selling is really getting connected and getting to know your customer, your client, your potential lead, whatever it is, because you can't service them without really learning about them. Right. And caring about them and wanting to, help protect them and, show empathy towards them, because they may have gone through something really hard, you know what I mean? Like that for them, you know what I mean? And their finances are all screwed up, but they need the coverage because in this country, it's like mandated that you have homeowners, auto, you know what I mean? Like most states mandate that stuff, right? Like you don't need health insurance. They try to mandate that, but you don't need life insurance. Do you know what I mean? But there are certain insurance that you really need or else you get in trouble, right? By the state. So,
okay. So just really understanding, I mean, just to kind of put that into a nutshell, right?
It's okay.
Key to success sounds like it comes back to really understanding your customers' needs, being able to service them at a high level,
Yes.
and really sounds like you really, almost individualize it, or really, make sure you're catering
Personalize
to
it.
them. Yeah. So that it's not just,
Absolutely.
kind of a blanket approach to everyone, right?
There's
But
nothing
really,
cookie cutter about it. Like
yeah,
if all you're worried, first of all, I can snap and make $100. If all you're worried about is making money, then go ahead and keep thinking broke, okay? Because that's not where you're going to do anything, okay? That's not how you're going to excel in business. How you're going to excel in business is definitely making a connection, but at the end of the day, you can't just give, like, there's so many agents out there who write whatever they want. And then the customer doesn't even know what the heck they have. First of all, no one understands insurance. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about agents that are like overwriting or underwriting policies. Well, obviously overwriting is to make more money. Do you know what I mean? Like, so that's
yeah,
all they're concerned about is putting money in their pocket. Well, guess what? That nonsense is not going to work forever. Okay. You can get away with it for a little bit, maybe for a while. I don't know. But eventually everybody just sees who you are. You're just a sneaky, shady snake. And all you worry about is making money, when you should be worried about your customers or your clients and who want to work with you. Like, I've had people come into my office and be like, I wanted to see you. And they bring in me gifts, and they never met me before. And they just talk to me on the phone. Like, seriously. So, I mean, this stuff is really, really real. Like and that was almost 10 years ago. So now business has completely changed. Like, I'm launching a whole personal branding campaign. Like, we never thought about that nonsense. Like, we're talking about basic business here 30 years ago. And that was like, it's all about your business, and your personal life doesn't matter or care. And you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
you are not your brand. Like, now you are your brand. You know what I mean? And what you do, people want to see who you are and what you do, to a degree, so that they want to work with you without even, like, you don't even need to pitch to them. Like, you're just meeting them. Hi, hello, whatever. And you're, having a conversation or a coffee or something, or you meet at a networking group or an event or something. And then, your energy, your vibe, your, whatever you want to say it, your demeanor, your persona is coming out, and they're like, I gotta, or, I mean, a lot of times I walk into a room and everybody wants to know who I am. So, but that's who I am. That's my personality. So it's like the same thing is true about, even if you may not have that type of power, but you got to have your light, you got to be shining, like, and I mean, naturally, like, whatever your natural organic presence is, right? And then that's going to gravitate, people are going to gravitate to you. They're going to be attracted to you, so that's another way in business that, you can be successful. It's just being you and who you are meant to be, finding your passion, living your purpose. That is the ultimate dream. That's the ultimate American dream. I feel like it is
yeah,
that if you can, number one, find your passion, and your passion should be basically something that you just love, you absolutely love. Like, you can turn a business into what you love. And then that probably is your purpose, because you love it so much. You have such a passion and a heart for it. It probably is your purpose. It's all connected.
yeah. I think that's awesome advice. And I found that to be true in my life, definitely.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how it sounds like, I mean, just from our conversation last time, you transitioned kind of away from insurance. It sounds like you're still doing it, but you got
Yeah.
into
So
some
this
other
is
things.
so,
So let's get
yeah,
into that. What came next?
right. So, okay. So then so I had, rebuilt my life, right? I mean, I worked like 2 full-time jobs, paying off my credit, reducing my debt to income ratio. I was trying to, like, we wanted to buy a house when I was married, right? So I was still like, no, that's the American dream, buy a house, right? So, but I was like, I gotta fix my life. So I fixed my life. I grinded, I hustled. I even did some things that, it's not that great or whatever. But I did work 2 full-time jobs, and one was as an insurance agent during the day, and then I would work at a warehouse at night, at Walmart warehouse, East 8. And anybody, all my friends in town were like, Jackie, what are you doing working in a warehouse? Like, that is just not you. Like, what the heck? And I'm like, listen, it's paying the bills and I got to pay myself out of this debt. I can get, I got to fix my life. So I was like, I just did whatever I had to do. And it was like, for a couple months over like the, holiday season when they're like just hiring, they hire almost anybody. I mean, I had a great, background, but it didn't matter. Like anybody can get a job, seasonally. So, I did that like from November to January, and then they, laid us off, of course. And then I actually took a break from insurance because I got so tired of the terribleness, like all the sneaky, shady stuff and the broken promises and stuff. And I actually applied for that same Walmart DC, just for like I worked there for like 10 months, and I became a problem solver and a master trainer. So like I put in my application. I didn't even know what I was applying for. I think someone recommended I apply for, I don't know what the heck. Anyway, I met this man named Ian, and he was like, you're going to be a problem solver. And I was like, okay. I didn't even know what that was at the time. Like I was like, he said, you are perfect. And I'm going to have you be my head problem solver of the overnight shift. And you're going to become my master trainer, and you're going to train with my master trainer during the day. It was really wild. Like I just never, so that was kind of like another aspect in business. Like I learned about my skills, like my soft skills, like, how I was able to, like, I learned, looking back now, I learned that I had more skills, more to offer, right? I was like, this is wild. Like, like looking back at it now, like that really probably also was another pivotal point in my life, as who and what I am today in business, is because of that experience. So getting back to how you said, how did I transition into real estate, was I all of a sudden switched my life up and I didn't even know it. I was ready to buy a house. So I met a realtor who then hooked me up with her mortgage lender brother. And, I got myself qualified, like I talked to him, he spoke to me, and I was like, okay. He's like, well, I just need a bunch of these documents, and let's, see what we can get you qualified for, to, then shop for a house. Cause I guess that's how you have to do it now. Right. And I was like, okay. So I got qualified within 24 to 48 hours or whatever. So I bought my first home, which was a fix and flip. It was like a mess. It was like they had Section 8 people living in there who just destroyed the house with like 1 billion dogs. Like all the walls were black. Like all the floors had to be replaced. Like anybody, like the pictures that they listed online, yeah, that was like the pictures before those people moved in. So when I walked to the house, or they went to show me the house, I was like, okay. I was like, this is not the pictures at all. But coming from a construction workers, background, like my whole family was in construction, and, fixing things and, renovating the house and stuff like that. Like my dad actually renovated our first house. And I was always his like helper, his professional helper, because I was the oldest. So, I knew a little bit about, fixing things and repairing things and, renovation and stuff. So I was like, all it needs is all new paint and all new floors. I said, okay, let's just do it. Just like clean it up. So I bought it. I got a great price for it. And over the COVID, so I started painting it, but then the COVID happened, and all that free money I got from the COVID, I put into my house. And that's how I fixed my house to flip it. And then what happened was and I knew I was going to fix and flip it, but I thought it was like 3 to 5 years. No, it was like 2 years. So hold on. So sorry about that. Flipped it. And
That's okay.
basically I had a major life change, a major life event. It wasn't a change, it was an event. I wind up being diagnosed with skin cancer over the COVID while I just fixed the house, right? So I worked myself to death. I was overworking like all day anyway, till 8 o'clock online. Everybody was working virtually, doing these meetings. I was trying to, do life and retirement, right? Okay. And all of a sudden, I probably just ran myself into the ground, and all of a sudden, I've been diagnosed with skin cancer out of nowhere. Like, I'm not even a sun goddess. I'm like, this is weird, right? So it completely depleted my body. I had to get blood infusions. I had to get weekly B shots. And then I had to, well, luckily they found it in time. It was in like the early stage of cancer, right? And they just cut this huge chunk out of my shoulder and sent it away. And they tested it and they said, we got it all. And I was like, whew, okay, great. But I was still under doctor's care for like 9 months, like, because it completely messed my body up, like depleted my vitamins, like like everything came back, like no iron, all these vitamin deficiencies. It was like I was a zombie. I was walking around like a zombie, was still doing stuff, right? Then I decided at the same time to have reconstructive surgery. So reconstructive surgery, I kind of went through a midlife crisis, I guess. I was just like, I don't want to die of a heart attack at 50. So I was like, I just like saw every doctor on the planet at that time, like even the podiatrist, to make sure that nothing else was wrong with me. No lie, no lie. Can I still have kids? Like all kinds of stuff. Like you have no idea. And so at that time, I actually had a massage Reiki session, and I it was like for my birthday, and I didn't know what I was stepping myself into because I never had a Reiki session in my life, and after that, it was the most profound experience. So I had 3 days of enlightenment, and God told me that I'm going to sell the house, that I'm ready, the house is ready, and I'm going to sell it, and I'm going to relocate to Florida to do Airbnbs. And I was like, what? Okay. I was like, because I was told for years I should get into real estate and insurance, right? I was like, no, it's too much. I don't want another license. I was like, no, right? I was like, I got like 5, meaning if you break them down, it's 5 of them, right? I was like, that's 3 tests, no. So, or 2. So that's what I did. So after I recovered, I had like 2 months recovery from my surgery. I already knew that after that I was going to, basically get the house ready for sale, kick whoever out, get it like ready for sale, meaning just like clean it and restage it and, all this stuff, declutter it. Cause they don't want to see your personal stuff if you're staging a house, for pictures and stuff. And so that's how I learned about, selling game is fixing and flipping. And I sold my house literally in 5 days. It was only on the market for 5 days. I showed it in 3 days. Like it was from a weekend, like Friday to Monday. I had offers on Tuesday. It was done on Wednesday. It was in a very like high profile, like desired area, like the best school district, like almost on the whole side of Pennsylvania. Like everybody wanted this school district. And literally there was a school like down the street in both directions. Like I think there was a middle school in one direction and an elementary school in another direction, and they could walk. So like this was the best area, which I didn't want to move to at first. But it was the best area for me to buy a house. And like, it was like hotcakes, right? So that's how I got into real estate, is I fixed and flipped my own first home on FHA, actually, which I can still get back now. So that's how I got into real estate. And then, so by the time, we sold the house mid-June, or like the 20th, around the whatever. And I said I needed a 60-day close because I had to, pack everything up and get rid of whatever and pot it and, get out of there. And it was right. It worked out because it'd be right before like the school started, for the year. Right. So it was like worked out perfectly. And that's what I did. And then I lived in hotels for a few weeks, got down here and lived in Airbnbs for a few months. And that's another way how I learned the business of vacation rentals. So, everybody at the time called it Airbnb, but it's not really called Airbnb. It's called vacation rentals. And at the time I was living in something called midterm rentals, which didn't actually exist. Nobody knew what to call it then because it's over 30 days. So a short term is under 30 days. So that's how I learned the ins and outs of Florida vacation rental industry, because it's completely different here. I'm sure than other places, because it's a high volume, high desired area. Everybody wants to go to Florida. So, the game is probably way more sophisticated here than anywhere else, right? Or was at least. So, and that's how I got into the business. So when I got here, I created an investment company because I was like, I'm going to buy a property. I was like, I'm going to buy my first property when I get here. Well, that didn't happen because I exhausted all of the funds that I made making my house, basically getting here and having to live in Airbnbs for months. And I paid off some of my credit. I got it, like I traded in my car, I got a newer car, right, to get down here and stuff. And all the money gone. Poof, like like by January gone. So, and I didn't have anyone to guide me about doing an investment. Do you know what I mean? So I didn't because that was, besides the fix and flip, I didn't know too much about the whole investing game. I was just learning, when I got down here. So now I did that. And then I wound up, so I was broke. Okay. I was broke. I needed a job. I had to figure stuff out. I had a major life event, another major life event. Like I actually was with somebody on and off for the last 8 or 9 years. And we came down here together and then we wound up separating. And that kind of I didn't it hurt, but it didn't break me. You know what I mean? It just hurt, right? It hurt. And because that person and I had been through a lot together, and supported one another. And actually he was the person that protected me from my ex-husband from attacking me 2 other times after he beat my face. So this person was very, he was like a protector, for me. And then I did things for him that changed his life. You know what I mean? So it was mutual, right? And so I spent 3 months in isolation after that happened. And in that 3 months, I actually established 2 new companies, and I established them. So not just EINs and, state and all that other stuff, but I also created a foundation for them. So I created all my services, all of my socials, all of everything you can think of. I did everything but write a mission statement, I'll be honest. So I just did everything. So March came. Well, I was already looking for some employment, and I wound up hooking up with a man who owned a cleaning company, and he wanted me to be his manager, manage his company, right? And stuff like that. And that's how I kind of learned about one of the services that I offer. It's called turnover services, and that basically means we prepare the property for the next guest or tenant or buyer or seller. So that's a really big a la carte service that I have. So I created 10 services that would make me daily money. And that is how I started my real estate property management company from nothing. I literally, in that business, both of the businesses, I started with nothing except for business cards for the one business. I did all the branding. I paid, somebody at first, I think $60 to help me create my branding for a graphic designer who was, up and coming or learning or whatever, but he did a pretty good job at the time. And I did everything, my branding, my socials, my foundation, the services, everything you'd think of, you would think I was already doing it for years, years and years. Right. But, so when I teamed up with him, which wasn't a great situation, I actually walked out and left that position because he was just very, not professional, not a verbally abusive or something. I'm you're micromanaging me and I can't manage your company because you're trying to do everything. It just is what do you need me for? It was crazy. So I wound up, just leaving. And what I did is that, I hooked up, I became acquainted, with, Airbnb owners, or hosts, people who had properties who were, in the game. Right. So I wound up leaving that situation with 11 properties. Or 11 units. It was actually 3 owners, 6 properties. That's how I left. And then I got the next 2 on Facebook on doing networking groups. I obtained 2 other owners network doing being a contributor, replying to posts and stuff in networking groups. So that's how I got that. So by the time June happened, I had 2 months, right? I had already 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 owners with over a dozen properties.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's how I kind of went fully operational, was right away. So then I had to hire somebody to help me. And so I had someone who was kind of as needed. And then I also hired someone, full time, or someone to be with me every day. Because I just couldn't do all this. Like I couldn't do the turnover service myself. I could do like staging and design, which is another service. There's on and off site laundry. Like I can do everything. I just can't do it all by myself because my body won't physically allow it. You know what I mean? Like I would not be able to walk at the end of the day. Like, I work 10, 12-hour days and I'm like, yeah, this isn't working. So I hired my assistant, Dana, and she's been with me now. It'll be 2 years in May. So over a year and a half, I guess, or almost a year and a half. And that's how we basically went operational. And that's how I got all of my business really was, participating in networking groups and other type of like community groups, being present, like replying to posts, like, doing some type of, obviously that's, connecting and then, responding, replying, like that. So, I've never done any type of paid advertising. A couple months ago, I tried to do an ad, which didn't work, Facebook didn't work at all. So, but you have to have a higher budget for that anyway, but still, like that didn't work. And then there's, stuff like I'm doing here with you. I'm participating in as guests on, podcasts. Now, I published 3 books on Amazon. That's more of a personal passion project, which is going to be launching off of my personal branding. So there's, podcast opportunities now, and there's, I'm trying to get news coverage for the petition that I wrote to the state of Florida to reduce the, rates here by basically, bringing more options. Like they have to change the law or something has to change here. They have to have a sit down, so other carriers will come here because carriers won't come here because of whatever they have in place right now. It's just not working. So, now my focus of my businesses is more on myself, because I also have my insurance agency, right? So I have my insurance agency, which went live this past spring. It took a long time because of my transition period here and relocating. It was very difficult to bring my licenses over. I even lost 2 states doing it. It was insane. I was like, isn't there like a grace period? Oh no, we don't have a grace period. Well, other states do. So I don't know what you're talking about. It was pretty wild. So, and I have my agency is actually an agency here in the state of Florida too. So, so we're like, fully launched and operational. I focus more here on like business insurance and like life and retirement because the personal lines are terrible here, so until I can help make that change. So other than that, my life has shifted because I've been working on myself personally. And it started in July where I entered a 21-day spiritual challenge. And, I had to remove the people, places and things that had been in my life while I was here, like for the last, over a year. And they just couldn't go, all of that, people, places and things couldn't go where I'm going. So I had to leave it. And then it tried to, rear its head back, all of it actually at the same time. So then I had to eject it. So that was like 2 months later. So I'm on a really, so I've been on a healing journey the last 2 years while I've been here. And from all the trauma that I've endured the last 20 some years of my life, that's made me who and what I am, and both personally and professionally. And now since my life is shifting and I'm evolving, so are my businesses. So my businesses are completely changing. I don't know exactly what's going to happen in the future with them, but I do know that it is time to do my personal branding. It's been like evident, and it was brought to my attention. And, I do so much more than just real estate and insurance, like there's, I just started to meditate and reflect on it the last week, well, a couple of weeks really, like, what am I supposed to do with this? Right. So I'm in the part where I was like, well, what the heck am I going to do with this? Like I'm not going to sell products or anything. I have 3 published books. Well, I have 2 published books on Amazon. The other one's still being reviewed, but it'll be done and ready soon, this month in December. And I wrote it on self-love. It's a self-love book, actually. So it's actually called Love Yourself. So it's a guided workbook on how to love yourself first. So before you're with anyone else, like you can't, be with someone if you don't love yourself first, it just doesn't work that way, and it's far beyond just, self-care is wonderful. A lot of people really neglect themselves with the self-care thing, but the self-love thing is even worse. Like if people aren't doing self-care, they don't really have any self-love either. Because you can't have one without the other. So, but, and I do 2 planning journals, which is one was on pregnancy and one is on wedding. So, you got to love yourself first to, be with someone and then have a baby, like in the right way, right? Meaning like, I don't have any children still. I have fur babies and I will not have a child with anyone, um, unless it's the right person. So I've refrained from, that thought in my life, because it's, whether it happens or not is on God, like I gotta, the right person, the one that God has for me has to come to me. So, once that happens, then I can, have a child with that person. Up until then, I'm not bothering.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm not bothering. So, but, so these books came about, we started working on them in August, actually. So after the challenge happened, the spiritual challenge. And then that's kind of, like I said, since July, I've been on this, my life is shifting. I'm evolving personally, and then now like it hit my business this month. So like a lot of things are just really changing and becoming, how I react to things, is a big thing. Not grinding and hustling the way I used to. Like it's not required anymore. I don't need to do it that way. I can push myself, but I don't need to do what I did for the last 8-9 years. Do you know what I mean? Like I had to change how I get things done or make things happen or, whatever. Like, and I can be still, and sometimes that's needed. Or like my focus needs to be that I share myself with the world and what is needed. Do you know what I mean? With whoever comes into my world at the time, whether it's like, just a brief hello or whatever it is. So it's all interconnected, right? So with my personal branding, it's definitely more I think it's going to be more driven with like business consulting, more with like possibly spiritual counseling, because I am an empath and a prophetess. And, besides being very creative and musical and a singer and stuff like that, which that part is going to be brought back. Like I haven't done my music in over 20 years. Like I haven't even sung in public. Like I think I did an audition while I was married, but like I have not, like the first, like the person that I was born and that I was raised to be, like, or that, like all those skills and those talents or my talent has had to be pushed away because of my life experiences, because of my marriage and what he needed. And then because of me having to rebuild my life and then, having nothing and, almost dying a few times and, all kinds of skin cancer, survivor, domestic violence survivor, all these things, right? Life happened and got in my way. And most of it happened because I made the wrong decisions. So, I made the wrong decision that pivoted, like changed my whole, projection of my whole, life at the time. So, but, being more aware of yourself, who you are, what you bring to the table, what are your skills, talents, and abilities, finding your passion, living your purpose, like that's all, how you can be successful both personally and professionally, right? So that's kind of like where it's going to tie in my branding. So I have my personal branding, and then I also created an expert panel of female entrepreneurs who are going to, bring resources and education in order to elevate and empower the community, to do the same, to be the best version of themselves. So, so there's me, and then there's my panel, and then there's my 2 businesses. So now it's no longer just about my 2 businesses. It's really about everything, or really it starts with me. So that's why I was trying to think about I meditate on the what am I going to do with this branding? Like, it can't just be pretty looking.
Right.
So I think it's definitely, we're going into a shift and into a new season, a new chapter, a new life chapter, really, of where, I'm going to not just have my businesses, but there's my panel, but then there's me as the business consultant, the serial entrepreneur, the inspirational speaker, the spiritual counselor. That's what now is going to be evident and brought into the world, and my businesses are just an extension of my arms.
Yeah, I love that. That makes a lot of sense. I just realized what time it is, so I'm
It's
going to be
okay.
respectful of you and wrap this up. But this has been a fascinating conversation. I know there's so much to your story that we didn't get into, but it's inspiring what you've overcome, and and we definitely touched on some really valuable principles. And so
Thank you.
I hope the audience got a lot of value out of it. I for sure did. But where can people go to connect with you?
Well, I mean, so like I said, we're going to be launching my new branding, which will have their own, like my panel and my personal branding will have like its own website landing pages that will then veer off my businesses. But right now, like the best place to reach me personally at is on my entrepreneurial page, which is facebook.com, and my tag is JMC, which is my initials, Stellar Solutions. So it's actually a piece of each of my names. So my businesses are Elevate Stellar Reality. That's my real estate property management company, which I'm on the web. You can find me on the web, ESRLLC21.com, and Cassella Insurance Solutions, which also has a website. It's CISLLC22.com. And I'm all over social media, so you can find me on social media like that, on my website. If you want to connect with me personally, like as an entrepreneur, like I said, the JMC Stellar Solutions is your best bet. But all my contact information is there too. My phone numbers, my websites, my my email, Messenger, right? So Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. So I'm kind of like a little bit, I'm everywhere.
Yeah, that's perfect. We'll have the links to those in the show notes. So if you're listening, go there to connect with Jacquie. What's your final message to our audience?
Just you need to find who you are and what you're meant to be. And it's there that you will be able to truly be happy and live your passion and fulfill your purpose, because that's what you're here for. You're here to fulfill a purpose. And everyone has a different purpose. Some people have small purposes. Some people have huge purposes. And it doesn't matter. It's still your purpose. You're not supposed to be anybody else. You're supposed to be you. So, but in order to do that, you have to search within yourself. You have to find yourself first. You have to love yourself and give care to yourself and be easy with yourself. And it's okay if you made mistakes, and life happens and life experiences happen out of those mistakes, which could be good, bad, or ugly. It doesn't matter. It makes all of you and who you are. And it doesn't define you. It shaped you. It molded you into what you are meant to be. So that's really like the biggest thing that I have to say to everyone right now, is just to, and because it's truly through working on yourself that you're going to be able to really move forward, to really be who you are supposed to be, whether it's that a business owner or entrepreneur or whatever, whatever it is. Like that, not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur, right? But or the best on the corporate ladder, you know what I mean? And or whatever it is you're supposed to be. So, but you can't be the best if you're not good to yourself, so that then you can be good to others, and then really shine your light and how you're supposed to be in this world and affect a positive change.
That's the perfect way to end this. Thank you so much for being on the show, Jacquie. It's been an absolute pleasure. For anyone listening out there, make sure you're subscribed on whatever platform you're hearing this on, and please share this with others if it's been valuable to you. Thank you so much again for listening. If you're out there, and thank you, Jacquie.
Thank you so much, Nina.